everyone, and welcome to the upgrade of the Camp Cretaceous Tree House in Prehistoric Kingdom. I built the tree house from Season 2 before Season 3 came out, and now I've upgraded it the way the kids have. I hope you'll enjoy seeing the treehouse in a new way, and if you do, give the video a thumbs up so I might feel less bad about my poor life decisions. Thank you very much. I'm starting with the parasol. Of course the parasol is supposed to be blue, but recoloring items is not yet in the game. Prehistoric Kingdom is only in alpha, so gray it is for the moment. Now for the panels of the parasol, I set the angles to 20 degrees so that the angle would be the same on both sides. And then as you can see, I'm just copying them and turning it right around. And I cheated a little bit at the end by making the final two panels a little bit wider than the other two. Guilty as charged, but this build, this upgrade already took 2 hours, even with little cheats like that, so forgive me, Father, for I have sinned, but it was necessary. Now the kids placed one extra bed up onto the second floor, so I just copied the super comfortable concrete mattress from down below and I placed it up there. And here I am placing the railing, which I also just copied down from below. Again, that's all just to save time. Now I'm starting work on the roof structure, and it was difficult to figure out, and it was certainly the most time-consuming part of the upgrade. You can see me pausing right here. That's because I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And that was difficult because really the support of the roof is a mess. It's just a mess. I had the same problem when I built the original treehouse. The foundation of it, the supports of the treehouse, they're just a mess. There's very little rhyme or reason to it, and that makes it really difficult to copy something. And that's the difficulty I ran in here as well. It also doesn't help that it seems like the roof isn't properly supported. I think the roof, even though most of it is tarp, it is based on a metal frame, which I'm expecting to be quite heavy, but the supports for the new roof are quite minimal, and that also just doesn't help in trying to figure out how it works, because it goes against logic. But I did the best that I could with the reference that I had. Now, I will say we get quite a few good shots of the treehouse in Season 3. We get some pretty decent views of it, so at least that was fun to be able to see more of the treehouse. I do wonder, though, looking at like that single bed up there, who would sleep there? I wonder whose idea it was to put a bed up there. Like maybe it was Ben, as we saw in Season 3. He was sort of distancing himself from the rest of the kids, or maybe it was either Yaz or Brooklyn, because they've, you know, they have some sort of rivalry going on at the start of the season, so maybe they needed some space from each other. There's really no answer to that, but that's just stuff that I enjoy thinking about. Also, doesn't that concrete bed just look super, super comfortable? That's like prime back support right there. Aside from the bed, the only thing upstairs is like a little separate room, a little a cabin or something that's up there. It's separated off with wooden planks and panels. I'm guessing that within that closed off structure is there a way for them to get up and down, because I can't see how else they would do it. We see in Season 2, if I remember correctly, I think it's Brooklyn. It looks like she comes down from the roof via the bunk bed, or at least the crates by it. But with the wooden planks, they closed off that access. So I think somewhere in there is their way of going up and down. And I suppose that the crates that are down there still function as a ladder. But because we don't actually see what's behind all of that paneling, I didn't include that in this build. Again, just another cheat to make it a little bit more doable for myself. Now, while watching this, I do actually realize that I made a little bit of an oversight. All of these singular beams that I'm placing, the light wood is supposed to be bamboo. We don't have bamboo in the game yet. I forgot to add the ropes at the joints to hold everything together. oops. I'm only now realizing it as I'm watching myself build that. Oh, I forgot to do that final step. But anyway, I'm still trying to figure out the roof structure and how it all fits together. Now, even though the entire structure is basically a mess, it's held together with hopes and dreams and movie logic. It is very strange that the structure isn't just strong enough to support the kids. Like, sure, I get that, but in season 3, like at the midway point, we see E750 attack the kids and it jumps on top of the treehouse. Now, judging by its size, E750 has to weigh about as much as an elephant, so it's quite miraculous that jumping off a tree onto this makeshift treehouse, that it didn't collapse under his weight. So the kids are very good at building. It seems not the most realistic, but that was just funny. I noted that during the series, and I was like, oh, that's a strong treehouse right there. Anyway, we're moving on to the roof structure. It's made from, it looks like yellow tarp from the original tree houses from Camp Cretaceous. Again, colors aren't available yet, so once more gray it is. And what we also see for the roof structure is that the metal beams that support the tarp, they're warped in quite a few places, and I'll fully admit that that was another cheat I applied. I didn't go with making the beams warped. Making a singular beam look warped would require like 5 to 10 pieces to make it a natural warped shape. And it was really hot last week, okay? I'm gonna be fully honest with you. It was hot. I was up in my room. I was reconsidering life. It was after a while I was like, okay, I want to be efficient about this. Now what you will see right now is I'm moving the roof structure over to the actual building. Typically when I can avoid it, I don't build directly on top of the main structure. I always build stuff in elements off to the side. That just makes it a lot more easier. It makes it easier to select an element as a whole, for example, the entire roof. And here I'm actually reselecting it because I dropped it and I didn't like it. But if you build stuff off to the side and then just copy it over, you can really easily select the part you want and resize it, reshape it, and do what needs to be done without accidentally selecting 100 other items that make up your build. Now, I'm splitting the roof a little bit because there is a bigger gap between the two parts of the roof, so I'm sort of simulating that here with thicker beams as well, and like a slight opening between the two. And I'm just rescaling it to make sure that it overhangs in the right proportions. Now, I will fully admit that, like I said, not just with some cheats, but also just with limitations of the game and what we can or can't see, it's not like 100% accurate. It wasn't at the start, and this recreation isn't either. But I think that with what the game is now, and without spending like 10 hours on this build, I think it turned out really well. I think it looks convincing, and yeah, unless you're willing to spend 10 hours, I think it's as close to it as you can. Now, keep in mind that the original treehouse already took me 4 hours to build, and this upgrade took me 2 hours. So it's already in total a 6-hour build. That's a lot. So I hope you'll forgive me for not wanting to invest even more time into it. I'm sure I could have. For example, if I included the little rope bits to hold everything together in all the places where it should have been. Oopsie. But yeah, it was a long enough build already, and at the end of the day, it's still a game. It's supposed to be fun. So 6 hours in total was the max for me. Now, the roof isn't just made up of the two big angled pieces, but there's also a smaller piece of roof off on the right side of the treehouse, so that's what I'm building here. From looking at the references, it looked like there's a little bit more distance between the tarp itself and the metal framing that it's suspended upon. So that's why I built a slightly bigger square framing. I centered the tarp within the framing, and then using the rope pieces, I connected it in the corners. The scaling tool in this game is absolutely brilliant, and none of this build would have been possible without it. Honestly, it is such a lifesaver. Like, just being able to resize these pieces of rope to suit every need, and to have just one metal beam serving so many different purposes. It helps out so much. It's such a clever detail within this game, and I made greedy use of it. Really, this wouldn't have been possible without it. If it was, maybe if we had more pieces, it would have taken 3 times or 4 times as long as it did. So yay applause for the scaling tool. I'm just moving the roof in place. Let's see. Do I place it and regret my life? Yes, I do. I place it over here, but I realized looking back at the references that it's more over to the other side, so I had to select it and move it over. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just fiddling, trying to get the angle right, and then adjusting the supportive beams as needed to support that little side bit of roof there. It's always just a matter of looking back at your references and trying to find compromises between, you know, your own perfection and what is doable within the game, and time management, frankly, just time management. But yeah, I do wish I had thought to add the rope pieces around everything. That's just a tiny detail that I think would add like that little extra layer of realism. Now I'm just deleting the pieces that I have off to the side where I built everything, and I'm having a look at the structure, and I'm happy. So we're gonna move over to the metal fencing that is around the treehouse. That's one of the upgrades they made. They're going to be electrifying this fence, which is really dangerous. I feel like that alone should have killed some kids, but anyway, they have some metal fencing around it. You really just have to build one panel of that metal fencing and just copy and paste it all over the place. So that's what I'm doing. This chain link mesh type of item in the game is really clever because you can rescale it to any size you want, but the size of the chain link itself, like the openings within the chain link, doesn't change. It remains uniform, and that is so clever, and it's been really helpful during this build. Otherwise, you know, if you rescale it, the openings are gonna be either huge or really small, and then it doesn't really fit together that well anymore. And it's such a clever piece for them to add to Prehistoric Kingdom. That was really marvelous thinking. Anyway, I'm just copy and pasting my panels around the treehouse, mimicking the shape that the kids did to protect their treehouse. And I did put the rope pieces around these joints, so I don't know why I didn't do it for the rest of the treehouse. Obviously, I did have the wherewithal to do it here, but I forgot it for the treehouse. I'm just adjusting the debris around it to make sure that it's sort of closed off. Now what I'm doing over here is I'm adding an extra piece of tarp. Again, it's supposed to be yellow. Again, we don't have yellow. But we see really clearly in Season 3 that there's a really big piece of tarp to the left of the treehouse. And it has like this wheel-shaped, star-shaped beam structure that I'm guessing it was the roof of one of the original tree houses of Camp Cretaceous. So that's what I'm building. Again, building it off to the side so I can fiddle with it as much as I want without accidentally selecting and deleting or changing things that are part of what is at this point a pretty complicated build. Now, I did make this warped. It was a little bit easier to tackle, and it's off to the side, so, you know, you're not going to look at it too closely. So you could get away with making the warp really oversimplified. So really all of the pieces or all of the beams are just made up of 2 pieces to add the suggestion of it being warped and destroyed. you know, I did take that extra step here just because um, it would have been really noticeable if this had been in a perfect shape. So I'm just putting it in place. I accidentally deselected it. Putting it in place, again, just looking at the references, not trying to be too perfectionist about it, but still mimicking it as best as I can, placing some extra trees just to fill up the empty space. And then it's back to the mesh fencing. We're all over the place. Obviously, the kids need a way to get in and out of their treehouse area, so one of the panels needs a door. While working on this, I was wondering, where did this fencing come from? I'm assuming Bumpy helped them carry these panels to the treehouse from somewhere else on the island, because it doesn't look like anything that would be around the original Camp Cretaceous. You know, it's very utilitarian. It's not, you know, cozy, made for kids kind of stuff. So I'm assuming they found it somewhere, maybe part of the park that was under construction still. They found it and they had Bumpy help carry it over to the treehouse. Bumpy must have been a really big help, actually, while building this treehouse, for lugging around all of this heavy stuff. But yeah, anyway. Nearly finished with the door. I'm just making a really simple doorknob with this single piece. And once more, I can't stress it enough that rescaling tool is a lifesaver. I very much enjoyed it. I think it's actually one of the main reasons that I gave up on Planet Zoo pretty quickly, because Planet Zoo doesn't have that rescaling tool, and it makes building 10 times harder. I am not exaggerating. So yeah, kudos to them. Now here we go. I did include the rope pieces here to hold everything together. I guess it's more noticeable here than in the treehouse itself, so I'll forgive myself. Maybe I won't cry myself to sleep tonight. Maybe I will, I don't know. But yeah, I went the extra mile here and I added those rope pieces. They're kind of annoying to work with because, as you can see, they sort of mess up the I don't know what it's called, like the little gadget that appears. Like, these are easy, I can just move them perfectly from right to left, but when you start doing, when you go around the corner, you have to move them forward, and then a little bit to the left, and then a little bit back, and then a little bit forward again. It's, I don't know why, but the thingamajiggy, that's a technical term, doesn't work that great for these rope pieces. I don't know why. Anyway, moving on. We see the kids in Season 3 fortifying their fencing with some loose beams, some crates, stuff like that. So I'm just building one crate that I can copy-paste and again resize to different sizes and shapes to mimic that, and beams as well to prop up against the fence. Now, I'm not an electrician, but I do wonder if that wouldn't mess up with how they electrify the fence. I suppose since it's wood, I'm assuming wood is not the best conductor, so maybe it would work, but haha, it would work. Anyway, so, I am rambling at you guys wanted this, okay? I asked you guys on the community tab if you wanted this with just music or with voiceover, and you guys massively voted for voiceover, okay? So you're the maker of your own misery right now. This is what you asked for. You literally asked for commentary. It's, I guess it is still my responsibility that I'm bad at it, or it's my responsibility to be good at it. I speak English less and less throughout this video. That's pretty much the conclusion. Anyway, let's focus on what I'm doing. I'm still adding pieces to the fencing as we see the kids fortifying it. Loose beams, copying all over the place, and then resizing them a little bit just so you won't see how similar they are. You also saw me earlier, I sort of rambled over it, but you saw me copying the pieces of the tire that I had up on the banister of the treehouse. Instead of making a new tire, I just copied what I had, moved that over, put it off to the side, there you go. And I'm just grabbing it and putting it into place. We don't really see that well where everything goes. I don't think that's very important. the important thing is there are some crates, there are some beams, there's a tire, and I don't think the exact positioning of them is that important to get the idea across. So resize the tree a little bit, and that was the last step. In honor of Jurassic June, there's an event on the Evolution Square Discord. Every Saturday and Sunday, I or one of the team of moderators posts a riddle that tests your knowledge of the Jurassic franchise. The first 2 winners of the Jurassic riddles are Yuti the Huali and Moosh Gamer 27. They solved these 2 riddles the fastest. If you know the answers to these, comment them down below, and if you're up for the challenge and you want to see if you'll be the first to solve the next riddle, go over to the Discord and sign up for the Riddle Enthusiast role, and then maybe you will win a shoutout and 2 other prizes. I hope you enjoyed the speed build. If you did, give the video a thumbs up. And if you, I don't know, don't trust the YouTube algorithm to know you better than you know yourself, subscribe to the channel and ring the bell for notifications so you can see my next massive waste of time in Prehistoric Kingdom or Jurassic World Evolution. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, enjoy the game.